And hello and welcome to my weekly Wednesday. I've called it so many things over the past few weeks. It's been my Wisdom Wednesdays, it's been my musings, my midweek musings, and all sorts. So I don't know. We'll see what is coming. And something's just popped up on my screen, so I can't see. Anyway, I'm really delighted to welcome Jennifer Rogers to chat this evening because I was going to say we're old friends. It feels like that, but we actually only met, I don't know, a few weeks ago. Um, because we're together on a in a container at the moment, a coaching container. But I was really drawn to find out more about Jennifer because of the work she's doing. Um, and she's going to talk about that in a minute. But we're both coaches, and we both coach from the three principles grounding approach. And Jennifer is has taken this understanding of the three principles into women's prisons. Um, Plus a lot more in lots of other areas as well, which we're going to find out more about. I'll just let you know as well that Jennifer is joining us from California. So um, that's one of the reasons we haven't met in person yet. But we will soon.
We will.
So, Jennifer, I'd love you to tell us, first of all, just to kind of get us going into what you're doing now, how you were drawn in the first place to the three principles.
Mm. Well, first, Sharon, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. And I too feel like we're old friends.
Oh,
Just feels that way. So, I had an experience about 30 years ago in a transformative type education where I saw what it was to have insights. I saw what it was to have a paradigm shift. I saw what it was to have an understanding of human beings and how they work. The study of ontology is the study of being. And it changed my life and it was so interesting and it changed my relationships. Um, but it ended at the human level. There was
okay.
something missing for me the whole time. Something missing, like there had to be something deeper, like into the spiritual part of being human. And I ran across the three principles about as I was trying to figure out how was I going to bring this type of understanding about being human into coaching. I ran across the three principles, and I realized at that moment that that was the missing piece. Like that was the part of being human that didn't just end with how we act with our habits and our ways of being and how we bring the past into our future, how we bring the past into our current, and how we do that. It went the next level, it went the next layer, it went to who we are at our core, and it was the missing piece. So I immediately just said, this is what I want to do. This is the work that I want to embody. This is the work that I want to bring into the world, that I want to share with other people. And so that's how I got into the three principles.
Yeah, I love that. That kind of missing the missing piece, the missing link,
Yes.
as Sid Banks calls it,
Hmm.
because I felt the same way actually when I stumbled across it. And I wasn't particularly experienced in the field of psychology, but I had kind of got into personal development through my horses, believe it or not, which is um, quite a story. But and I was helping people already. I was helping people through the work I did with the horses to, explore what it meant to sort of be human, if you like, and become more self-aware and all those sorts of things. But there was something missing, and it showed up in me massively because I was still struggling. I was helping other people with all sorts of issues and quietly struggling on my own with with my problems with anxiety and depression and all that sort of thing. So when I stumbled across this, it didn't land straight away. It took a while, but I suddenly went, "Oh my God, this is the bit that joins it all. It's like the jigsaw, you know. You finally
Yes.
find that piece and you get a picture." So yeah, so that resonates completely.
Hmm.
So my next question would be, tell us more about, why prisons? Why and share more about all the other areas that you're working in.
Well, I've always been okay. So my history, my degree back straight out of high school was in administration of justice. So I've always been interested um, in corrections and police work and that kind of thing. I actually was a correctional officer when I was 23, when I was very young, in a men's maximum security prison, one
Okay.
of the very few women. Um, and it was very heavy and very depressing. And I realized at that point that we're not we're not making a difference with people so that they can leave. This is just to contain people.
Right.
That there is no rehabilitation really. And it was, and so I left that work knowing that I would really like to focus on working with maybe youth, juveniles, at-risk youth, kids that are at a point where I can catch them or we can catch
Yeah.
them as a group before they
Yeah.
before they end up in somewhere for the rest of their lives. Like, so I've always been involved in juvenile work. I was a probation officer, a volunteer probation officer. I had a group home for kids, and I was always really drawn to the kids. So when I started deciding I want to use this work, I immediately thought at-risk youth. I want to go into high schools, into juvenile detention facilities, and I want to bring this understanding to youth. Well, as it turned out, the doors kind of opened that I ended up at the women's correctional facility for the state of California, which is the largest women's facility in the country, probably in the world.
Wow.
And I knew once I got into that facility, it's in the state system. I can get into any facility in this state system. So I am doing that, but I'm also involved with. I also do the course with at-risk youth. I've done it at the juvenile detention facility. I've done it in high schools, with kids who are getting off track. Um, but also want to take it to just other communities that are marginalized in society, LGBTQ communities, maybe women who have been trafficked or abused,
Oh wow.
shelters, so, places where people uh, are kind of on they're either thrown away by society, they're
Yeah.
kind of like thrown away, or they've thrown themselves away. Like they don't see possibility and hope, and they don't know that they're whole and complete, and they don't know, or they've forgotten. They need to be reminded who they really are.
That's amazing.
So,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
yep.
no, that's amazing. And I love how you were looking at the youth because again, haven't done anything like I don't have the experience that you have, but when I was doing my equine assisted work, I worked mostly with teenagers, youngsters, mostly boys
Mm-hmm.
who were uh, they excluded from school or kind of, young offenders just getting into kind of, going down the wrong path, really. And it was really an effort to try and scoop them up and point them in a new direction before they went too far.
Yes.
Not that I believe there is a too far and that's you can never change, but it just seemed to be, so important to try and reach the youngsters. So I really get that.
Mm.
But
And it's really interesting because what I'm noticing, I've been around, like I said, I did this work, you know, years and years ago. I don't, there's such a fine line between, the women I'm working with that are in there for life. Some of them are life without possibility of parole. And there's a very fine line between them and maybe someone who is running a corporation. It's so interesting how when I look at these women or the kids that I work with, it all boils down to, you know, uh, things that occurred in their lifetime, what they made that mean about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe an impulsive decision. We've all made impulsive decisions.
Yeah.
We all have. Any one of us, given the right
Yeah.
environment and the right choices and the same thinking, would be there.
Be that. Yeah. Do you know, I
Mhm.
have to share this. I might have said this before in another call, but I didn't know this was going to come up. I recently started with the buddies scheme, writing letters to inmates.
Mm,
Um, and the first person I started writing to, it turns out that we both started a writing course. He's writing in prison, and I'm doing this writing course, and I've just self-published a book literally in the last few months. So writing was kind of, in my head. And I don't know anything about this man, really. And we're writing, and he's telling me about what he's doing and everything. And then he tells me that he's already written a book. So I buy it. I mean, of course I do.
yes.
So I'm reading this book about it's a biography. It's about him, and I've had a few messages. We've just started corresponding through the prison letter writing service and so forth. So I know nothing about him, but I'm learning all about through this book. And what you just said is what hit me like massively, because he he's talking about his life from a child up, and it's actually called The Bipolar Kid, the book, so it's out
Mm,
there. You can buy it. But I kept reading things and going, oh my God, because I could see exactly how and why he was doing the things he was writing, had been doing, and what he was writing, because I could see myself
mm,
on those
mhm.
same, not that far away,
Right.
sort of, and with just there was just the slightest line between what he was talking about and my life and my experiences, and I was just like, oh my God, you know. And what
Mm,
really, really um landed for me massively, I mean, I was a wreck actually reading the book, was his our sameness, our
mm,
humanity, our and I thought to myself, my God, this is somebody who comes from a totally different background, lives in a completely different part of the UK.
mhm,
I'm in wonderful Wiltshire, where everyone's driving great big cars with personalized number plates, wearing green wellies and Barber jackets. And he's from up the north in the city, and his upbringing and background was so far removed
mm,
that I would probably never meet somebody like him. And and
mhm,
and if I don't know what he looks like, but I could imagine that he'd probably be somebody I'd see and cross the road.
mhm,
Do you know what I
mhm.
mean?
Yes.
But strip away all
Yeah.
that judgment and
Mhm.
those ideas about someone that you and there's that humanity, that sameness, that usness, I call it.
Yes.
And that really kind of impacted me when I read that book.
Mm. Yeah, I see that when I'm in the group with the women and with the kids. When I did the group with the kids in the alternative high school, they're considered the bad kids, the ones some of them, have been labeled ADHD or, on the spectrum of autism and, have done bad things or skipped school or gotten fights. And when they're in there talking, I see me as a child. I see me as just a scared kid trying to figure out how to do this life,
Yeah.
how to do this. And they may not have the supportive parents and, the things that I had and and it's the same way with the women in the prison. We're all just trying to do the best we can. We're trying to figure out how to do life. We want to be loved. We want to matter. It's deep down, it's all the same. And then life happens and life just happens. And we create a world out of that. And we struggle through the world we best we can. And some of us make decisions that affect the whole rest of our life. Others of us have that thought in our head. And for whatever reason, we turn the other way.
Mm.
And other people have the thought and they act on it. And it's so amazing how we really are so similar. We really are. And if I can, when I'm working with these people, and if I can point them to that core of who they are, that we all are, and that they can see that they are, at their core unbroken and, that they can have an amazing life wherever they are, then that's what I want to do.
And and how does it kind of, I was going to say, how does it land that? Because you're talking about a psychological
Mm-hmm.
freedom.
Mm-hmm.
When you
Yep.
say no matter where they are, to,
Mm-hmm.
to people, to women or
Mm-hmm.
anyone who are where freedom looks impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I can't
Yeah.
think of another way of saying it.
Yeah. I don't know how. That's the thing. I don't know how. I was having this conversation with someone else this morning. Um, their their insight, their transformation, what they see is truly not my responsibility. If I was, and I need to remind myself of that. I don't need, as long as I'm trying to do a how to and to make something happen over there. And this is, you know, something I struggle with because you know, I want to see, I want something good to happen for them. I
Yeah,
want that. And the more I want something and I try to make something happen over there, the less the chance is.
that's so
I'm
true.
noticing. So,
Yeah, that's so true. I've
so
noticed that too.
yeah, I don't know how it happens over there. All I know and all I'm learning, I get just as much out of each one of these classes as they do. I thank them from the bottom of my heart while I'm there. And I don't think they've heard that before. I mean, that in and of itself, they aren't quite sure how to take me, but I see things about me and about life and about other people every time I have a conversation with them. But all I know is that if I can be there without judgment, if I can have that feeling of like love and humanity in my heart, and I can lead some interesting conversations where we dig into some conversations. The rest is on them. It's up to them. Some may get it, some may not, but that's not my responsibility.
No, I yeah, I know when I first started trying to share this, I actually it was mostly with children. I actually went into schools, into primary schools, and I was, in the classroom, which was a really new environment for me as well. So that was interesting. But um I do remember that I was actually so attached to an outcome. You know, I wanted them to get it. I hate that word, but you know what I mean, that phrase, get
Yes.
it. But
Yep.
I really wanted them to be impacted, to you know, and um and I remember driving home uh driving home one day. It was a lovely summer. It was in the summer. It was lovely. And I was driving back and I was chewing my, you know, my lip or something because it had been a bit of a difficult session. And and I suddenly realized and I was like, "Oh my God." And I pulled over and I just stopped in the car for a minute and I just took a moment and I was like, "Oh, where are you going?" You know, it's not, I mean, that just kind of fortunately came to me. I was like, "You're trying too hard." You know,
Hmm.
it's not your responsibility. You
Yes.
just got to come from a place, you know, where you're offering something. And but I remember that day. I remember it very well.
Mm.
And I'm sure I can't, I mean, you know, I've never been into a prison, so
Mhm.
um I can't imagine how that would be really. But
Mm.
what I know is this work is so surprising, isn't it?
It is. I think it'll be unfolding for the rest of my life. However, yeah, it's very surprising. I learned so much about myself, and it changes like every conversation I have with whoever I'm talking to, whether it be, through my work with my nonprofit or just with my husband, something else opens up. I don't think we don't ever get done or finished.
No, no.
Yeah,
I feel like we could talk for a long time. So, yeah, I think I would love to, you know, catch up with you again at another time and hear how it's going and hear more about some of the other groups that you work with.
I would love that. I would love that.
Yeah, yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing this so openly. I mean, I feel quite emotional actually. I don't know. This conversation opens up all sorts of, you know, cracks your heart wide open, doesn't it?
It does, and that's where the magic is. Crack it open.
Yeah.
I love that. I will dig in with conversations with you anytime in that
Yeah.
arena. I love that.
I
Hmm.
think, you know, this conversation isn't, what do I want to say? This conversation isn't just about women behind bars. It's about everybody who's behind some sort of bar in here, isn't it?
It
I'm sure there's
is.
a better way of putting that.
No, that's a perfect way. I love it. It's true. We are all the same, and I tell them that. I tell them that we're the same.
Yeah.
We are the same. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing this. It's been a real privilege actually to talk to you. So thank you.
Thank you,
And
Sharon.
we'll
Thank you
make a
so much.
date for another one.
Let's do it. Let's do it again.
Okay. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.